Hi, I'm John Ross-Perkins. I'm going to do a short video showing implementation, at least parsing, not including checking, of the extern library syntax. So right now, extern alone is a token modifier, and this is adding the optional library owning library syntax to that. Uh, I'll start off by just creating a small feature branch for this. And in toolchain, I really want two things here. One will be a small test in check, opening up this. So I want to just add something that is using the syntax to show it doesn't crash. As I said, it'll be a to-do. I don't really need to make it work right now, but we don't want it to be an error, like a fatal error. This test was missing a library label before, so I'm just adding that now as well. So that's just as a to-do. And then also I'm going to add a test to parse, which is where I'm really trying to make changes today. So right now, extern is part of the base, this one file. I'm going to split out its testing because I want a little more than just that. So we have extern, and I will note in the parse tests, the library name isn't really used, so we typically don't add one. And then we also have default library syntax that will probably be accepted here. And then I also want to add some tests for some just simple cases of invalid syntax. And I'll do similar over in the definition side. Even though definitions don't support the extern library syntax, I want to make sure we have it tested there. So I will just copy just a couple of the success cases, really. And I'll do a quick auto update to just see how this is working at the moment. So this is all expected that that's going to behave a little oddly because, again, this isn't valid syntax right now. We just need to make it error differently. So now I have my 3 test files I'm going to work on. Looking at how the actual logic works, it's over in the handle decal scope loop file. So we have this try handle as modifier. And importantly here, we have this macro use for token modifiers where I want to start changing all of the uses of that. So here, this file is over in check. This is just going to be where I have a to-do remaining. And when I say a to-do remaining, with the token modifier, I can just directly add extern and that's semantically correct. But with the library modifier, what I'm going to do instead is do a context to do. So this is just printing an error and failing out in parse. Next, here are where the tokens themselves are actually defined. So this token modifier macro is just adding a modifier suffix to all of those labels. I do want two different tokens for this, and you sort of saw what I was doing in check there. So I want a library modifier and a token modifier. The reason for this is that the subtrees of the two will differ. Token modifier specifically has no subtree. Library modifier will have one library, like the library name in the subtree. And we use the subtrees as part of semantic checking. So having it possible to identify what the subtree is going to be from this node kind itself is important. Going into the typed nodes, where that's a little more apparent, maybe, first I can just take this that was doing the extern modifier before, and now again, I'm calling this extern token modifier. Sort of filling in the things that were handled through the macro before. And then the other thing I'm going to do here is define a more structured thing for the library modifier. And I'm just adding comments about what syntax this is actually handling. I do need to mark this as the node category of modifier, and I do that through adding it through the definition in this more complex form. So if I look down at the library syntax, I can see there's this library specifier here. And this is essentially the syntax we want for the token mod, or for the extern library modifier. So I'm going to just copy that. And in particular, we want the ID of it there. So this is now the structured node that's defining, this extern library modifier node kind has a single child node, and that's going to be the library. And, that's going to have another child that has the actual name inside. There's one more use here of that macro. This is just disambiguating keyword use for keywords that could be either a declaration or a modifier. Extern is going to remain non-ambiguous, so I can just add it to the same block as that. This here is going to be where most of the logic ends up. I will just copy that full thing for now, and I'm just going to have it produce an extern token modifier regardless until I finish. Or until I get a little further along. So I'm updating the tests again here so that I can see the current state. What I'm expecting is that where we were producing extern modifier before, it's now just going to be extern token modifier because we haven't really changed the logic, but we have changed that name. And if I do a diff of something like this basic file, bad example. if I do a diff of, maybe I can just cat this file, we can see now that there's the extern token modifier and it's being produced for token, or for the extern token. And that's all fine. I'm going to add this now so that I can get slightly better diffs as I continue. So in library parsing, I already know that there is some library parsing elsewhere in handle imports. So I'm going to look at that, how it handles libraries in here. And what we can see is there's this handle library name helper that's doing a fair amount of the lifting. And this does things like seeing if it's a string, seeing if it's default, and printing a diagnostic. And we'd really like to use this in full. I'm going to just refactor it out to the context object. Sort of putting it towards the end of main functionality. So I'm going to change the signature a little. I'm going to call it parse library name because I think that'll be a little clearer about what it's doing for callers. It's now a context member, so I can stop passing and treating context as a parameter. One thing I will observe about this is that in these two paths, it adds the library name, but in this path, it doesn't. I think that's not great, but I don't want to fix that right now. So I will add a small to-do of add an invalid node on error. And the reason I don't want to do it is because it does mean callers will need to change a little. In here, now that I moved this function out, I need to just update the calls as well. So again, not much should have changed. And this is part of why I did the add a moment ago, is so that I can do a quick auto update. And I want to just, again, confirm that the output is the same. And as you can see, that didn't update any test files, so everything's still looking good. Getting back here, I do this add leaf node. Now, there's somewhat similar logic here again of here where we do the library specifier. It's checking the next kind, and if it's a library, then we consume the library. So I kind of want to avoid duplication again of that. What I'll do is, because there's also this other case here where it's just a library decl that we have slightly different logic, I'm going to create a new helper function. This is producing a library specifier, so I'm going to call this parse library specifier. And I'll have this return a bool at what I want to do is handle parsing library name, and this is false if not. And yeah, it returns false if not present. Actually, no, I'm going to do that slightly differently because of how the callers work. I'm going to have this require that the position is a library token. So the next kind should already be verified when it's called. In check, we might have put this into its own standalone library, like we have function.h and import.h and so on. But we don't have that yet in parse, and that's why I'm just adding it out here. So since I'm removing that conditional that was there because I'm expecting that the library token is always next. Actually, this was returning a parse error. For now, I'm not going to change that aspect too much. So I will have this return a bool. Actually, no, I'm going to see what happens if I don't, because it should be okay to just produce an error if we do this to do of adding an invalid node here. So in order to get that, I will do something similar to this add leaf node. But with has error equals true. How is this deciding accept default? So I probably should keep passing around accept default to this actually. So let's just copy that parameter. Apparently, this was assigning the library ID, so I should also keep the return value. And I'm copying then also the returns comment. I'm just double checking what happens in the error case because I think it's probably fine. It'll be a little different because of the changes I'm making, but these are probably minor issues. Again, I'm just making sure that for the changes I've made, that these are going to work passably well. So that's not great. What I should probably be doing here is... I forgot about the null opt. So now I can check how that actually affected the failures. I will... I want to just see, without getting into this too deeply, if I just need to do the unparser in the other case. So this isn't quite what I want still. What I'm missing here is this should also add the library specifier. Let's actually do it that way. I think this will yield a consistent result. So yeah, this is what I'm looking for, is we always have the library specifier. It always has the library name, even in error. So I'm happy with this. It does change the output a little, but again, what's important is that the structure is maintained, and this reflects what's actually in the code. Okay, I'm getting a little distracted. So getting back to the main modifier support, we've now refactored this so that we have a common function we can use. Getting back here, we can write well, this is basically checking the current position kind. If it's a library, what we are going to do is parse the library specifier. And for now, we'll just always accept a default there, because this is kind of talking about another library anyways. And we actually need to move this extern token into the else case. So we first consume the extern token, then check whether there's a library. If so, we get into parsing that. Then we add a leaf node. We also need to add the node for the extern library modifier. This doesn't have any errors, but we do need the subtree start The way you get a subtree started is typically you just look at the subtree size before proceeding, which I haven't done often enough lately, so that little call. And so this is probably about done now. Parsing can be relatively straightforward. It's all of the work you do to actually pull it together that takes time. So these are the deltas I expected, but I'm just going to open up the files in my browser. This is the checked thing. So we have this to do that I put in. It means the extern library modifier is getting pushed forward. These are getting parsed. I expect this sort of diagnostic that actually looks fine, how it's producing. I should probably skip over the foo modifier, but maybe for now I'll just think about it and not do anything. Here we have the parsed form, so that's the extern token modifier. Here's our new library structure in a good parse. Here it is with default, again, a good parse. Here's the error case where fn is being marked. Here's foo as the invalid name. That's still getting used. I will just add a reminder there. Maybe add a little error recovery. In particular, if a non-declaration token is next, like a type of the library name. But I think that's pretty much it for now. I'm committing that so that I can double check what the delta looks in GitHub in case I've forgotten anything. So again, here I have my check support, which is just a placeholder. This here only changes because of this blank line, and that blank line adds because we have them as separators between diagnostics. And I'm adding a new diagnostic to the end, which is just my to-do. While I'm looking at this, I should really double check that tests are passing. Here are the two functions I refactored onto context. The new handling, the heart of what I just added, the things I factored out, and more refactoring of library handling, the new modifier structure, and tests. So all of that is looking good. I'm not noticing any missing comments. Tests are passing. Ugh. So I'm just gonna create this change and I'm done. Thank you, and I hope that was helpful.